Good morning, everyone. Welcome to First Congregational Church of Blangsburg's online service. Thank you for joining us here in this digital space. My name is Olivia, and I will be your host today. Today is the second Sunday of Christmastide, the season of celebration of how overcoming love entered into the world as a baby. This overcoming love is not the same as dominating power. We compare the love of power with the power of love this season. And as we explore, we have a few poems, prayers, and readings for us along the way. Blessings on the journey.
Good morning, this is Troy, and I'm going to read your call to worship this morning. This bread is light, dissolving, almost air, a little visitation on my tongue, a wafer-thin sensation, hardly there. This taste of wine is brief in flavor, clung a moment to the palace roof and fled. Even its aftertaste is memory. Yet this is how he comes. Through wine and bread, love chooses to be emptied into me. He does not come in unimagined light, too bright to be denied, too absolute for consciousness, too strong for sight, leaving the seer blind, the poet mute, choosing instead to seep into each sense, to die himself into experience. That was Love's Choice by Malcolm Guite.
We light this candle to remember that God makes all things new. God brings hope alive in our hearts and causes our spirits to be born anew. We light this candle to thank God for this new year and all the potential it holds, and pray that it will kindle in us a mighty flame, so that in our time, many will see the wonders of God. Have a Merry Christmas.
Chances are you got a new sweater or shirt or socks for Christmas this year. I bet, right? Maybe you needed them because you wore out your old ones after years of use and just didn't want to buy another one. Maybe you got them because you ruined your old ones doing projects. You put holes in them or got paint on it or got it dirty. Maybe you got them because the old ones didn't fit as well anymore. Maybe your body composition changed. Maybe your taste and style changed. Right? These two different things, there's a difference between these two needs. Something on the outside changes versus something on the inside changes. And this is where our passage takes us today. Now, John 1 is a beautiful piece of poetry from the first chapter of John that accounts for how God changes the world. And it's a beautiful piece of poetry. Let's hear it read, and then we'll explore a little bit on the other side.
John 1, 10 through 18. He was in the world, and though the world was made through him, the world did not recognize him. He came to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. Yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision or a husband's will, but born of God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth. John testified concerning him. He cried out, saying, "This is the one I spoke about when I said, 'He who comes after me has surpassed me, because he was before me.' Out of his fullness we have all received grace in place of grace already given. For the law was given through Moses. Grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, but the one and only Son, who is himself God and is in closest relationship with the Father, has made him known."
Transformation is different than change. Change is what we do in the morning with our clothes. And transformation happens, something is different. It's when we decide to eat healthy. or when we decide to work out more, or when we decide to pursue an education or a different career path, or commit to some sort of overhaul in our thinking or acting, right? Change is on the outside, and it involves our appearance, like changing a sweater, changing your clothes in the morning. But transformation changes how that sweater fits on your body. Perhaps you change your mind about how you eat and you lose a bunch of weight, and now that sweater is very loose on you. Maybe you change your mind through education, change your heart through rehabilitation, and now that thought, that viewpoint, that stance that you once held so tightly is very baggy and does not fit so well on you anymore. Change is imposed from the outside upon us, while transformation is an inner morphing and changing of something deeper within us. Now, many of us desire to change the world and leave our mark. It's not actually that bad. But how we go about doing it is usually the run-of-the-mill, pursue power, pursue position, and then use that position to impose the change that we see upon this world as we see fit. This has severe limitations on the amount of good it can do, and oftentimes end up oppressing those on the margins due to their ability to make changes, right? God shows us how perfect love transforms the world. Instead of imposing change upon it, John 1 is this beautiful piece of poetry that describes a very complicated theology of the eternal Word entering into the temporal world as one of us, and that's called the incarnation of God. Now, Albert Einstein once said, "We can't solve problems by using the same kind of thinking we used when we created them." Now, I think that that is wisdom, and this wisdom is what John 1 is hinting at. You cannot change something by using the broken and abusive power structure that keeps it all broken and abusive to begin with. Even if we have good intentions, then we are enslaved by the means of the system we use to accomplish the goal in mind. If we seek to impose change upon someone or something, even if we have good intentions, the means of manipulation is always a form of violence, and never powerful enough to bring about transformation, even if we love the one we seek to change. So while Christ enters the world as one of us, we don't recognize him because his ways of love are so foreign to us. And they need to be if they're going to be able to do any good in this world. Because we've been waging war in order to bring peace for nearly 6,000 years now. And it hasn't worked once. So Christ enters our world to live a different way, because how you get something determines who you are when you have it. And Christ lives the perfect life of love in order to redeem all of creation back to the love of God. So Christ enters into the broken, painful world we live in, but lives in a different way altogether, and does this so faithfully it cost him his life, but also does it so perfectly that it transcends the death that swallowed him up, defeating it completely and transforming it into the gateway of life. Then Christ resurrected offers this to us as our destiny and says, "Follow me. Live like I did, in faith that I defeated the powers that consume the soul." So pain and suffering are not abolished just yet, because we have not experienced resurrection, only incarnation. But this incarnation is powerful enough to transform, and it's safe enough to trust, even in the face of our own death.
And now for our benediction. Incarnation is not yet the resurrection. Flesh in Jesus, as in us, is human, vulnerable, weak, incomplete, needy, painfully full of limit, suffering. Christmas celebrates Christ's birth into these things, not his removal of them. Christ redeems limit, evil, sin, and pain, but they are not abolished. Given that truth, we can celebrate at Christ's birth without any way denying or trivializing the real evil in our world and the real pain in our lives. Christmas is a challenge to celebrate while still in pain. by Ronald Rollheiser.
Thank you so much for joining us online today. We hope this service has been a blessing to you. What now? First, participate. If you'd like to participate in our services, we would welcome your readings with a simple phone recording. Second, partner. If you'd like to give financially to ensure the continuation of this online service, there is a link on the bottom of your screen. And lastly, third, subscribe. You can subscribe on YouTube or like our page on Facebook to stay updated with our online services. We hope you have found some hope, help, and healing today. See you next week.